So today we're going to start a new booklet, inshallah. This one is similar to how to debate the so-called Salafiyya. This title here, a Wahhabi asks and a Sunni answers, really that's just a placeholder. I couldn't think of a better title, so if anybody has suggestion, then feel free to offer, inshallah ta'ala. Maybe it could be a prize. Whoever has the best title could go to the book, inshallah, and may Allah reward you and enable you to share in the reward of the book. But you need to at least hear the contents first, though. At least get started. Don't rush. So this book is similar to how to debate the so-called Salafiyya. I did that first. And then I did this one for a reason. This one, as you're going to see, it's a question and answer format. And originally, how to debate the so-called Salafiyya didn't have that format. But I liked the way this came out. So I decided to apply that, this to that. So that's why now those two books are very similar. I'm going to skip this introduction here. But basically, it's just like a Wahhabi's asking questions. And we're answering him. It's a conversation. Question: what group should be followed according to the Sunnah? So he's asking us. We're answering. That's the whole thing all the way through. Just a conversation. Almost like an interview. Answer: what came in the Sunnah is the command to follow Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. This is obligatory and following another group is forbidden. Like being a Shiite, for example. Or Mu'tazili. Or Ahmadi. Or Wahhabi, so-called Salafi, or any other group. You can only be Sunni. Even a person who says, I'm just a Muslim, I'm not even a Sunni, then he needs to be a Sunni, actually. That's obligatory. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, as narrated by Abu Dawood, وَسَتَفْتَرِقُ أُمَّتِي عَلَى 73 فِرْقَةٍ كُلُّهَا فِي النَّارِ إِلَّا وَاحِدَةٍ وَهِيَ الْجَمَاعَةِ. My nation will divide into 73 sects. All of them will be in hell except one, which is the Jama'ah. So that means obligatory to follow the Jama'ah because everyone else is going to hell. Now, for your information, if he didn't reach the level of kufr, this non-Sunni, if he didn't reach the level of kufr, he won't be in hell forever because he died as a Muslim. If he reached the level of kufr, he'll be in hell forever. But ideally, you want to keep your answers brief and simple. So this person asked a question: which group should be followed? So here's the answer: Ahlus-Sunnah, straightforward answer. And here's some evidence for you. And actually, we're saying that's obligatory. It's haram to not follow Ahlus-Sunnah. So he says, anyone may claim to follow Ahlus-Sunnah. Who are the real ones? Answer: according to the Sunnah, according to the way the Prophet described those ones. Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah is the group that follows the creed of the Prophet and his companions, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because in another version of the hadith about the 73 sects, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the saved sect is ma ana alayhi wa ashabi, what my companions and I are upon. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam, this is how he described that group. He said that this group follows what the Prophet was doing and what the companions were doing too. They believe like the Prophet, that is, more specifically. They believe like the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and they believe like the companions. So Wahhabi doesn't usually have any problem with this. He shouldn't. He wouldn't. But a hadith denier would have a problem with this. A hadith denier doesn't want to follow the companions. That's the one who says, I'm just a Muslim. I don't want to follow any group. So he doesn't even want to follow the Sahaba. So this one's not guided. And the first people to fit that description, by the way, are the followers, the Tabi'un. The Prophet said, Ma ana alayhi wa ashabi. That group that's upon what my companions and I are upon. So who best fits that description? The first ones who are like that. The followers, the Tabi'un. And so that means they're an authority. And Ahlus-Sunnah has always been the majority of the nation ever since the companions and their followers, the Jama'ah. So he says, what's the proof that Ahlus-Sunnah are the majority? Why would he ask this? Because if he's a Wahhabi who knows something, then this is an issue for him because he knows that his sect is a minority. So it's not going to set well with him to suppose or say that the guided group should be the majority of the nation. But maybe some Wahhabis don't know about this issue of being minority or not. Maybe some of them think that really what they believe and how they are, that's the way the Muslims are all over the place, all over the world. But this one says, what's the proof that Ahlus-Sunnah are the majority? So the evidence is from the truthful religious texts. And therefore, history is also a testament to this fact because truthful religious text is not going to be contrary to history. In the book, Allah says, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. You are the best nation sent out to the people. You bid the good and forbid the evil, and you believe in Allah. Surah Al-Imran, Ayah 110. You said truthful religious text equals certain knowledge. No, not necessarily. MashaAllah. Why not? How so? Because there's two types of proofs, even from the truthful religious texts. There's two types of proofs. Qat'i and dhanni. Qat'i means definitive from the truthful religious text. Authentic, 100% authentic religious text. There's definitive proofs and there's, if you want, speculative proofs from the definitive, authentic religious texts. So if you have a speculative proof, then that means what? That means that your answer is not certain knowledge, is speculative. I can summarize that by saying to you, there's, for example, explicit verses of the Quran that the scholars cannot disagree about. So then there's going to be certain knowledge ascertained from these. But there's also Quranic text, so that means the text is confirmed, the wording is confirmed. But what's proven from these texts is disputable. The qualified ones could go back and forth about that. So then one qualified one would take from this ayah one meaning or one proof, yani he would derive an answer from this Quranic text, and another qualified one would derive a different answer from the same definitive text. It's because the proof in that definitive text was dhanni, so they had to make ijtihad. So then ijtihad does not give you certain knowledge for the possibility of being wrong. Ijtihad gives you confidence. Is that clear? That's off our topic, but this important thing not to let it go past. So inshallah, that was clear for you. So he's asking, what's the proof that Ahlus-Sunnah are the majority? And we're saying the truthful religious texts prove that, and also the history. There's no way those are going to be in conflict. So as for the text, Allah Ta'ala says this ayah that I just recited for you. In this ayah, Allah praises the nation in general. And that implies that the praise is for the majority. Kuntum khayra ummah. You are the best nation. Then that's not going to be an isolated group out of the entire nation. It's going to be the whole nation at large, in general. So then this implies that the praise is for the majority. So that's from the Quran. It's not for a small secluded group. This shuts the door on a Wahhabi, but he's going to maybe try to open it back up again. So don't let him open that one. But does this one who's asking, is he one of those seasoned Wahhabis, or he's just a person who maybe got some of their books and read some of their stuff and maybe listened to a couple of their things, and he's not that sharp? Not that they are sharp, but he's really just a normie. There's also a hadith in the Sunnah besides the messenger calling them, subhanallah wa bihamdihi. In the Sunnah, besides the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam calling them the Jama'ah, which itself implies that they are the majority, when the Prophet called them the Jama'ah, we already gave you that hadith. There's this hadith I already gave you. There's the ayah that now I just gave you. Because Jama'ah implies that they're a majority. Because what this person might be wanting you to tell them is that the Prophet, where did the Prophet say the majority? You're giving me some interpretations. Jama'ah doesn't have to be majority. Ummah doesn't have to be majority because he wants the word majority. Well, really, that's because he's being stubborn. But is this one we're talking to one of those? Let's see. So, look, in the Sunnah, there's a hadith also that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, فَإِذَا رَأَيْتُمُ اخْتِلَافًا فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِالسَّوَادِ الْأَعْظَمِ. If you see dissension amongst you, then adhere to as-sawad al-azam, the vast majority. So that's authentic religious documents. As-sawad al-azam means very explicitly the vast majority. That's why it's transliterated here, so that you know that's exactly what it means. So if he's a nasty Wahhabi, he's going to try to say, he's probably going to say this hadith is weak. Or he's going to find someone who said so or claimed so, yani. So really, a Wahhabi doesn't have any evidence that the minority, that Ahlus-Sunnah is possibly a minority. Don't let a Wahhabi argue with you or shut you down about Ahlus-Sunnah possibly being a minority. As for the history, it is known that the companions did not break into sects. So that means their body, their generation, their majority was all on one thing. Therefore, in their generation, the majority, in fact, the entire group altogether was upon one thing. Their difference was in detailed rules, which is a permissible difference. And no one differed in belief at their time except the hypocrites. Was there any deviance at the time of the Sahaba claiming Islam? Yes, the hypocrites. And they were unable to spread their dissension. Rather, they kept their opposition and identities a secret. Their identities as hypocrites. They showed themselves as Muslims in the society. So they don't count. They don't count against the Sahaba because they didn't push anything. They didn't pump any dawah. They were just trolls and spies. As for the next generation, the followers, they stayed all together on one creed during the time of Abu Bakr. The Tabi'un, they didn't have sects at the time of Abu Bakr. So that's majority. And then at the time of Umar, they didn't break into sects either. We say Tabi'un here, I mean the next generation, people who are not Sahaba. So all the Sahaba were one group, one sect. Some people don't like the word sect. If you don't have to, I'm going to say it though. One faction, one sect, one group, those companions. Then the next group, the next generation who weren't companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. At the very beginning, when Abu Bakr was in charge, they weren't sects either. They didn't just start disagreeing. And then when Umar was in charge, same thing. And then when Uthman was in charge, same thing. So this is decades. Majority, all on one thing. So since this time, that's how it was always, yani. There did start being some division. There was no division until the time of Ali. The first group to deviate was the Khawarij. And there were only about 12,000 of them, which is a gross minority. That's when they were in the army of Ali. And then when Ali and Muawiyah wanted to moderate or do some treaty, they broke away from Ali's army. And there was a rotten one amongst them. And he influenced others. So this one, there was first deviation, not in the time of the companions, but in the time of the followers of the companions. Yeah, there were still companions alive, but amongst people who were not companions in the next generation, there was, but not at first, there were then people who were saying they were Muslims and they broke away from the majority. Furthermore, many thousands of them repented, if you know the story, i.e. most of them. And then Ali fought the rest and wiped them out, except for less than 10 of them. Those few scattered and started the Khawarij group anew. And likewise, the Shiites, they've always been minority in comparison to Sunni. And Mu'tazila and other factions of misguidance never outnumbered Ahlus-Sunnah at any time in history. Until today, there is still one group that has always far outnumbered the others, and they are Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. They also call themselves by another name, the Sunni Muslims. So then this one, he asks, so are you a Salafi? So if he's asking this, means to me, after hearing all of what I just said, he's not what one might call a big Wahhabi. If he's a Wahhabi, I mean, just from the line of questioning so far, if I just met this person, so he didn't say anything to prove he's a Wahhabi. He's asking me questions. So are you a Salafi? So how would I answer him? I would say, if you're asking me if I follow the Salaf, then the answer is yes. I can show you documentation from the Salaf for all of my beliefs and practices. However, if you're asking me if I go around calling myself a Salafi, then the answer is emphatically absolutely not. Yani, that means, if I'm going to say this to this guy, that means I'm not shy here to say, no, not at all. Not a fan. This is something new. But doesn't mean you have to say that to the person if he's asking you that. You could say to him in a way that's easier for him. If you're concerned you might turn him off, you want to benefit him. You don't have to say what's here. This is something new. The authorities of the Salaf called themselves Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. They didn't call themselves the Salafis. An example is Imam al-Tahawi. He is from the time of the Salaf. And he said in his booklet about the Muslim creed, this is a clarification of the creed of Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He didn't say, هذا ذكر بيان عقيدة السلفية. He said, هذا ذكر بيان عقيدة أهل السنة والجماعة. That's what the Salaf called themselves. So we don't call ourselves that name. So he says, and who are the Salaf? Yani, I might be suspecting that this guy's a Wahhabi because he seems infatuated with the Salaf. He could be asking me other questions. So he wants me to clarify Salaf for him. This is something on his mind here. Okay, the Salaf are the first 3 centuries after the Prophet's migration. Sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. They are the best centuries of Islam, as the Prophet said, Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Khayrul quruni qarni, thumma alladhina yalunahum, thumma alladhina yalunahum. The best of centuries is my century, then those who come after them, then those who come after them. So, this answer to his question. What did he say? Who are the Salaf? These are the Salaf. Period. That's how you answer somebody's question. He asks you a question. His answer has a beginning and an end. So the answer to the question is not yes or no. The answer is to elaborate in some way. So it has a beginning and an end. So we could start the answer and end the answer. It has a proof. Then let's throw a proof in there too. So there's the answer to your question. Now, there's a question right after that. But how might a person react in real life? Depends on what he's looking for, or what he might be expecting from you. But how might somebody here actually react in real life, not just on paper here? So this is his question. Who are the Salaf? And then here's his answer. The answer has a beginning and an end, and it has a proof. Period. It's brief. So depending on what he's looking for or what he might be expecting, then he might be silent here for a moment before the next question comes. I suppose this question number 6 is not going to just be immediate follow-up to my answer. For one thing, he should think about what I just said to him. Now, if he didn't think about what I said to him and he just threw his next question out, then that means probably he wasn't really listening to me. Then this means he wants to argue with me. But maybe he paused here and maybe he listened, he just internalized what was said to him. And maybe he paused here because he didn't expect me to answer him like this. So he didn't know what to say. So now here's another question. So then isn't it obvious from this hadith that you should be a Salafi and follow the Salafi da'wah? Oh, so that means this guy's Wahhabi. He's been trying to get at something all this time. But what brought about this question here, though? Now's the time to strike. He doesn't have anything further. So now he's If what I told him is not convincing him, he thinks he needs to uphold the Salafi way, then he's going to answer, he's going to ask something like this. Now, at first he's asking me, but depending on his intention, he didn't really get somewhere with me. So now he's going to actually be more active. So now he says, so isn't it obvious from this hadith that you should be a Salafi and follow the Salafi da'wah? Answer, again, if what you mean by following the Salafi da'wah is following the scholars of the Salaf, then yes, this hadith proves that. But that doesn't mean that one has to call himself a Salafi, because using this name is new. They called themselves Ahlus-Sunnah. However, if what you mean by following the Salafi da'wah is following Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Abdul Wahhab and Al-Albani and Ibn Baz and Ibn Uthaymeen and Fawzan and that circle of individuals, then none of them are from the time of the Salaf, and the hadith does not command us to follow them. And this answer is a very polite answer. So, why is a polite answer? Because we gave you the benefit of a doubt that maybe you meant by this question following the Salaf. Although it doesn't really seem like that's what you meant. You meant following Ibn Taymiyyah and them. But giving you the benefit of the doubt, maybe you meant, doesn't this hadith prove that you have to follow the Salaf? But it wouldn't make a lot of sense to ask that question with that meaning, right? Because that's what I'm already saying. That's already what I'm saying. So the question really means something else, but I'm being polite with you. So, well, if you mean, I don't think you mean it, but if you mean following the Salaf, yes. But if you mean, this is what I think you mean, but we'll take it easy on you, following Ibn Taymiyyah and them, then no. If you think that they are the Salaf, then either you have been miseducated or you have a misunderstanding. I might say that to a person. This is not the point to be offensive, but it's just the point to state a fact. How could they be the Salaf when the earliest of all of these individuals is Ibn Taymiyyah, and he is from the late 7th century, born 661 after the Hijrah, almost 400 years after the Salaf? It cannot be said that if someone does not follow these individuals that he does not follow the Salaf. It can't be said that if someone doesn't follow these individuals that he doesn't follow the Salaf. That's what they mean, though. It's like they fool themselves here because they know Salaf really means one thing. And then they talk about following the Salaf, but they mean something else. As if the word Salaf is mutashabi, has dual meaning. Following the Salaf is by following the scholars of those first 3 centuries, not contradicting them and correcting them. That's an insinuation right there, because no claim has been made really so far for me to say that, so I'm insinuating. Following the Salaf is by following the scholars of those first 3 centuries, not contradicting them and correcting them. That means now you want, that's a bait right there too. If you take that bait, now you're not going to escape. So if he's a sneaky Wahhabi, he might not take that bait, possibly. Question. It is true that those people you just mentioned aren't the actual Salaf, but they are the modern Salafi scholars. So it's not really a question here, he's making a claim. But all of the statements that's from the Wahhabi, it's going to have a cue for question. So he says, it is true that those people you just mentioned aren't the actual Salaf, but they are the modern Salafi scholars, meaning that they teach the way of the Salaf and according to the minhaj of the Salaf. So I'd say to him, this is your claim, but I guarantee you that we can easily produce the documents of the Salaf and almost all the fundamental issues of what those people you consider to be the modern upholders of the minhaj of the Salaf believe, and show you where those people you consider scholars contradict the Salaf. So that means, if you're going to say that, that means you should have your proofs. Well, what are you going to say to him? He's going to say, well, they follow the way of the Salaf. And they are the upholders of the way of the Salaf. That's why they are the Salafis. So what you're going to say to that? Because it's not true. So this is your claim. That's a polite answer also, because I could also say, that's not true. That's more offensive, though. So I want to help this guy. He says, like what? We can show you the abundant documents from the famous undisputed authorities of the Salaf, saying explicitly that Allah exists without a place or direction, that there are good innovations, that tawassul is permissible, etc. All the key points that make Wahhabi stand out. We can show you where all of that has authentication in the Salaf. Now, a Wahhabi might say, no, we can do it too. We can show you from the Salaf all what we're saying. So all of what they would show of authentic documents from the Salaf has explanations. We're not going to go into all of that here, but we went into that more in how to debate the so-called Salafiyya. So that's one way somebody, a Wahhabi, might respond to this answer. Because we're saying, he says, like what? We're saying, here, Allah exists without a place. Innovations, tawassul. For example, these cases that are major controversies between us. We can show you documents from the Salaf about you guys being wrong, basically. Or those guys. Here, we haven't yet, in this talk, accused him of being a Wahhabi, though it looks like he is. I would think he is. Yani, at this point, if the conversation ended and we went separate ways, I might think I just encountered a Wahhabi. And I might not be saying, though, this guy was a Wahhabi. I might be saying, I think he was a Wahhabi. But so how he might respond to this? He might say, well, we have documents from the Salaf too that show we're right, actually. So that's one way he might respond to this answer here. But looks like here, he didn't go this way, according to the next, his next response. He says, so wait a minute. So this is the real minhaj of the Salaf, what I can show you from the documents of the Salaf. And it contradicts the fundamentals of what you call the Salafi da'wah. So when I say you call it that, I am accusing him of being a Wahhabi. But I didn't call him a Wahhabi by name. I'm relying on my insinuation here. I feel confident enough that he's a Wahhabi. So this is what you call Salafi da'wah, because maybe he'll say, well, I'm not saying, but he is saying that. So if you say, well, I'm not saying, but no, you are saying that. This is the meaning of your questions here. You can't let Wahhabi talk you in circles, or any person else. All of what you're asking me means that. So after that, you're going to tell me you're not saying? But he didn't go that way. So here it says, he says, but if a scholar makes a mistake, we don't take it. So it's like he's saying, well, you found documents from the Salaf that say we're wrong. But if a scholar makes a mistake, we're not going to take it, even if he is from the Salaf. So he's saying whatever documents you found, that doesn't prove that we're not on the minhaj. Well, that is true. But these are not mistakes. Man, what's true? If a scholar makes a mistake, we're not going to take it, even if he's from the Salaf. But these are not mistakes. The issues I mentioned are what the Salaf were altogether upon and consistently verifying. So that's why you have to have strength in your proofs. Because Wahhabi is going to have some references. He's going to bring you things from Tabi'un saying that Allah is over the throne, and other scholarly quotes and quotes about bid'ah. So those quotes that he brings, you need to be able to sift through them. None of them prove what he's trying to prove. So that's true, but these are not mistakes. These are what the Salaf were altogether upon and consistently verifying. What is odd is that those people you think are modern scholars upholding the way of the Salaf have made it their business to correct the Salaf, to correct Imam al-Tahawi and al-Bukhari, and to correct Imam Abu Hanifa and al-Shafi'i, and even Ibn Umar and Aisha, all of whom are authorities of the Salaf. They corrected all of them. But they didn't find any mistake to correct from Ibn Abdul Wahhab. How peculiar. So this one says, so you are saying that I do not follow the Salaf? That's a yes or no question. I am really saying that, but I'm still trying to not offend this person as much as I can. I want to say the truth without offending this person as much as I can. When the truth is too offensive for him, then that's going to be his own problem. But if I can give him the truth and not be offensive, then I'm going to try to, inshallah. Here. Because why? Because I'm hoping maybe I can get somewhere with this guy. If I'm talking to someone that I don't think I'm going to get anywhere with him, if I am talking to him, because if I don't think I'm going to get anywhere with him, I might not talk to him. If I am talking to him, it's going to be for a reason, and I might not be so polite. Personally, that's me. So he says, are you saying that I do not follow the Salaf? Because here, this guy could maybe be wanting to set me up to offend him on purpose so that he can have a reason to be indignant and ignorant. I don't think there's a real need for this question. If a person understands what's being said to him, he can read between lines, then he knows that. Unless you just want me to really verify for you, you want me to come out and say, "What do you know what I'm really saying?" Well, I'm going to try to take it easy. Maybe you're a delicate one. So I'm just going to dance around a little bit with you here. I cannot say what you follow as long as you don't show it outwardly. So that's a true statement there. That's not answering his question, really. And I'm not going to make a habit of doing this because I really avoided his question here. It's yes or no. That's how people will avoid your question. If you don't, don't let them do that, then you're not going to get anywhere with them. If you're talking to someone, you want to have a goal, or what you want to just keep talking. Is it a conversation, or are you trying to convince someone about something? If you want to convince someone of something, that means you need to have a goal. If you have a goal, that means that everything you're doing and saying is supposed to be getting you to this goal here, not going all over the place and not going in circles. So it's not going to be my habit to just be trying to avoid his answer or avoid his question. That's what a lot of people do. I put up not too long ago a discussion I had with some Jehovah's Witnesses. That guy was just one of them. Really, he's a manipulative person, a peddler of false religion, a manipulative peddler of false religion. I'll ask him a question and he tries to get out of it. Or sometimes you ask a person a question, he'll flip a question back on you. They're not going to answer the question. They flip a question back on you. So you answer the question. Now they just changed the whole direction of the conversation. But here I did dodge his question just for a religious benefit that I hope to achieve. I don't really like to do something like that. I cannot say what you are following as long as you don't show it outwardly. So Allah knows best what you follow. By the way, the people who call themselves Salafis do not practice this matter that the Salaf practiced. Which matter? Rather, it is enough for you to shave your beard or wear your pants below your ankle for them to label you, let alone showing the slightest non-compliance to their modern authorities. You ask too many questions, they will not like you. Or you think for yourself, you're a guy who doesn't fall in line too easily. You're your own man. You might not be able. You might not be on the minhaj. The Salaf said that we leave people's inward matters to Allah, and that we do not charge them with blasphemy or hypocrisy as long as they don't show it. The scholar said that someone might be attributed to or affiliated with a deviant group while he does not believe what they believe or does not agree with all of their beliefs. Yani, he might be affiliated with a deviant group without believing in blasphemy. This is possible. However, if you say opposite to what I just mentioned about the Salaf's beliefs, then you certainly do not follow the Salaf. So here, I want to give a more direct answer, but still trying to take care of his feelings. But I'm trying to take care of his feelings for the sake of Allah. I don't really care about his feelings, though, personally. Most likely, I don't care about his feelings. But for the sake of Allah, that's important, not for my own personal concern. Let's stop here. Do you have a question I can answer for you?